Hi, Peggy. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and hello to all of our viewers on Facebook. Peggy and I finally get to go live today, so we're excited.
Hopefully we can do this.
Yes, yes. So I'm Karen Seitz, and I'm the lead teacher for the relationship course here at A New Life Center. And this is Peggy Litt. Peggy, will you let people know a little bit about you and who you are?
Yes, I am one of the founders of A New Life Center, and I've been working with women on their relationship with themselves and with their partners for about 10 years. So all of the information we're sharing with you, I have gone through myself, and it has truly, truly transformed my life. I have been divorced twice, so I was kind of repeating the same patterns. And so I'm very proud of all of you women for realizing that you need to make a change. And I read some of your posts, and I can tell a lot of you have very good men, and good for you for realizing that. I would ask that anybody that is corresponding with another person on this, in this group, please be supportive and positive. This is all about learning and growing, not being vindictive or being a victim. Okay? So we can really, really help you guys and support you if you let us. And try and be open to seeing yourself in everything that we talk about in these videos, because as women, we all pretty much have most of these traits, and you can't change them if you can't see them. So
thank you, Peggy. That's a really good reminder. And another reminder is everything that we're sharing in our perspective is works between two good people who are trying to make things work. It's for if you're with a good man and that you're a woman who's willing to take responsibility and, like Peggy said, to look at yourself and see these things. And if you're struggling to know if you're with a good man or not, that is something that we would be more than happy to help you to dial in on and understand for yourself. And with that being said, we're going to get into our topic for the day, which is why intimacy is the number one issue for married women. And Peggy, you gave a little teaser in our last video about what we would talk about today. So to you, what is that number one, or why intimacy is the number one issue?
Well, for me, I know it was because I lost my softness. And when I realized I lost my softness, my mind tried to tell me as my softness, I would be weak or submissive. And that is not what we're talking about here. Softness for women is a strength without fear. It is being willing to take down all of my walls, so I don't have any hard edges. I try and give examples of things, and the best example I could think of as me as soft was when I had my children and when I was first starting to nurse them, and that total melting with no barriers when they first started nursing. That's kind of what softness is, but I could only experience that from an external thing before. The softness we're talking about comes from us internally. So if any of you mothers have nursed in that unending love that you felt, all of a sudden you're going to know that for yourself. And it's only because we put up such walls because of hurt and loss and things like that, that we don't know ourselves as that anymore. So Karen and I will kind of go back and forth. She'll talk to you about how you experience yourself without softness, and then I'll come back around and tell you ways to experience yourself as softness, because there was a little part of me that was very worried that I would be ran over if I let myself be soft. So, okay.
Yeah, that's a big fear that I think we all have. And it's important to remember our goals and objectives in this group. What we are trying to learn is that you are responsible for your happiness. It's not your partner's responsibility or anybody else's. That you are the only one that you can change. You can't change your husband. So by trying to work on your marriage and create intimacy by looking for the things you want your husband to change is a Band-Aid, and it doesn't work. So we have to find a way to work on ourselves internally to build what authentic intimacy is, which is about that relationship with myself. So what I had and continue to have to look at in my own marriage is how I became very hard and very rigid. And I'm working on taking my walls down, and that's a process and a journey. And my hardness is, someone said it's like having barbed wire around my walls to protect me, because I think that hardness and having that protective barbed wire is how I don't get taken advantage of, how I get things that I want in life, how I don't get hurt. And when I approach life and my relationship that way, I'm completely closed off to myself, and then very prickly to me and everyone around me. And I can't access my true nature as a woman, which is to nurture and to be in connection with my femininity. And so, Peggy, how has finding your softness and your innate experience of yourself as a woman helped you to create intimacy with yourself and then in your relationship?
Well, I remember the first time I felt myself as feminine. We were on our way to a metaphysical fair, and I had done some work. And all of a sudden, I felt like femininity was oozing out of my pores. And I felt so exposed. And I thought, oh, my God, men are just going to jump on me or something. And it was really the opposite. What I got from them was such respect. And this young woman that was probably 30 and very beautiful came up to me and she said, oh my God, you're like a princess. It's like when we're soft, our faces look different. It's like we have been photoshopped. Everything is smoother and richer and more feminine. And people see that and they respond to it, but not ever in icky ways. There is always such respect there, which is really nice. And when I'm soft, I don't expect my partner to feel like I do about things, because I can tell I'm feeling my feelings as a woman, and so I can allow them to have their own experience. I think there was a lady named Julie that was having a hard time accepting how her husband felt about certain things. And Julie, I'd like to tell you, once you get in touch with your softness, you'll understand that he does have his own feelings. And with you being soft, he'll step up more as a man, because you're going to be more feminine and more womanly. So when we're hard, it's like men don't even know how to be men around us, because we don't let them. We expect them to think like we do.
and then what can happen in the relationship, I lovingly called it my man pants, because when I have my walls up and those hard edges around me, I'm really tapping into this masculine energy and myself, which is far from my innate experience as a woman. And it pushed my husband away, and then I projected that onto him about what my experience was and why we had the issues that we had. And as I've opened up to being soft and knowing myself as a real woman, there is a strength in that, pardon my language, but me with my hard walls and my barbed wire around me, I was a bitch. And it kept me from having that relationship with myself. So I couldn't imagine being any other way. And once I started to take that down and experience myself as soft, I have a strength in that being a bitch could never, ever give me. And a respect and closeness with myself and with my husband that was never there before, because I was trying to be the man of the house and very masculine and aggressive, because I thought that's how I could get what I wanted and what I needed.
Well, I think what happens when we get in a relationship, we get lazy and we start coasting. And it's like, okay, I made it. I got him, And at first we can hold okay for a little bit, but then the lazier we get, the worse we feel about ourselves. And then our walls start coming up and we do get hard. We get hard. And when you are soft, I promise you, your men will melt. And that you will allow them to be the good, strong men that they really are. They're not going to run over you. They're not going to expect you to be submissive. They're going to appreciate that you are a real woman. And I know for me, when I started all this, I worried if I was going to be soft, oh my goodness, he's going to expect me to have sex all the time, or, those kind of things. And I would like you women to realize, I did read some things about maybe not understanding your men's preferences as far as sex and things like that. And a lot of that we can take care of in our program, because there's beliefs around things like that. But for right now, I would like to suggest a very good book called Real Sex for Real Women. And it does a very good job of explaining and normalizing sex. If sometimes our religion or our parents or something like that kind of gives us ideas of what is right and wrong in sex. And if two people care about each other, you can have fun and play. And that doesn't mean you only have to do it one way or anything like that. So I would really suggest this book for you women too. Yeah.
And Peggy, because you've shared this with me before, and I think it would give our audience a way to start to practice this. How does being engaged with yourself and open to your relationship with sex, how does that allow you to find your softness in yourself as a woman?
Well, I think everybody thinks it's something we have to become.
Yeah.
But it is who we innately are. So what we will teach you to do is to let go of the things that you have laid on top of your softness, so it can come out in you again. I was working with a 38-year-old woman this week, and she came on the Zoom screen, and oh my gosh, she looks so beautiful. And I went, "You're soft. What happened?" And because there is this glow, ladies, like we all buy makeup to try and look like this, okay? But it is natural and innate in us if we just let it out. And what she said to me is, I initiated sex with my husband this week. And that was 2 days before then. And she still had her softness, and I can understand now somebody's probably going, "You mean I have to initiate sex too?" And that was very hard for me to do too. But it makes your men feel like men. My guess is I read a lot of people's posts and said their men are not attracted to them anymore, or, they're standoffish or whatever. And I really, really think in most cases, it is because we have pushed them away, that we have lost our softness. I was trying to think of another trait of softness, and it's like I have the excitement and innocence of a child, but the wisdom of a mature woman. That's not bad qualities, ladies. It really isn't. It's very wonderful. And I think you will probably be very amazed at how thoughtful all of a sudden your man can become if you let them be a man. Yeah.
And I know that one of the arguments that comes up in my head, so I know it comes up in a lot of other women as well, is, well, why do I have to do the work to make my man feel like a man? And I have to do the work to make myself know myself as a woman. And from what we've experienced in ourselves and then working with many other women, is it's so much simpler to do the work to take our walls down and let ourselves into our hearts, and then let our partners and our husbands into our hearts, because men in the best way possible are simple, and it doesn't take very much to make them feel like men, and they appreciate it so much. And when they have that appreciation in them, all the things that we talk about, what we want them to do for us or how we want them to show up, that's innate in them to be loving and caring. And so then when we treat them like men, that gives them the opportunity to show up as themselves. And I'm living it in my marriage, and I still fight against it sometimes, not wanting to believe it, but it really does work that way. Peggy, is there anything you would add to that?
Well, let's see. I think Vanessa wrote something about how her and her husband became empty nesters, and then all of a sudden they started seeing all these cracks in their relationship. That is so normal. When we experience life and we experience loss and we experience pain, and when we experience loss of self-identity, you becoming an empty nester, all of a sudden you don't know who you are anymore. So you don't know how to relate to your husband. We do hide behind our children. I know I did. So it's very normal what you ladies are experiencing, but we can help. Yeah.
And it's in you to change it.
Yeah.
So Peggy, what are some of the things that you talked about today that you want to make sure our audience remembers, and kind of just the highlights or summary about soft and how that can create intimacy within ourselves and our relationship?
Well, I think the main thing is to remind everyone that innately you are soft. If we can just help you get what's on top of it off of your softness so you can be a real woman, your men will start being real men. Yeah.
that pretty much sums it all up in that. And then to remember, as Peggy said in the beginning, we have to be willing to see, okay, what is covering up that softness? And that's the work that I'm in process with and teaching others how to do is what it takes and how to take down the walls and the barbed wire around them so we can experience ourselves as who we really are for women. And I promise just by doing that, it completely changes things in the context of being with a good man and having a relatively normal marriage with the normal marital problems. And if you're experiencing this and know you have those hard edges and want to take them down and experience yourself in the ways that Peggy is sharing about and that we're talking about today, we would love to have a 45-minute breakthrough call with you today and see if we're a good fit to work together. And if not, we will let you know. And if anything, you will get clarity and insight on your relationship that you haven't had in a really long time. So you can private message me if you would like to set something up, and you can also private message Peggy, and we would love to talk with you and get to know you more and see if our program is a good fit.
Well, and I'd like to reiterate one more thing, and how we feel about ourselves, we do project onto our partners. You know, a lot of you ladies are trying to be kind to your partners, but it's like you can't quite figure out what happened to them. And it like you are projecting how you feel about yourself onto them. I'll just tell one little story that I hope will help you understand how strong projection is. I was seeing a client, and she kept talking about how her husband had their home tore apart. He's trying to give her a very beautiful home, but he works full time. And so he was only doing the work evenings and weekends. And she was talking about how their yard looked like white trailer trash. Well, she only lived about 10 minutes from my house. And I said, I'm coming over to see your place. Oh my goodness, ladies. Yes, their house, he was in the process of redoing part of their house, but he was so respectful of keeping everything clean. And they still had a beautiful home, and their yard was like a park setting. Yet, because of her beliefs and how she was raised and how she was projecting onto her home and her husband, she thought they were the white trailer trash of the neighborhood. And that was so not true. So we create this big false world that reflects how we feel about ourselves. So let's get that rug pulled out from under us and then see what you have with your partner. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Peggy. I think we'll be live again next week. So we look forward to our next call. And thank you so much for watching and being here. And again, if you're ready to transform yourself and transform your marriage, we would love to talk with you. So private message myself or Peggy.
And please feel free to participate in these calls. We would love to hear from you.
We would. Okay, until next. Or go ahead, Peggy.
You all have a wonderful weekend, and please try and be open to seeing yourself in these videos. It's your first step to getting healthy.
Thank you, Peggy. We'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.